Hello again. This is Sydney with my reading log for September of 2023. So I read some of my legacy releases. By legacy, I mean not new releases this month as opposed to last month. Um, let's go ahead and start with some of the publishers I didn't have many books from. So first of all, we have The Villainess, level 99. I may be the hidden boss, but I'm not the demon lord. This was an enjoyable first volume of a Villainess series. If you watch the channel for a while, you know I love Villainess series. I need to give this more room to breathe before I give a real opinion on it, but from what I remember, it was pretty interesting. I did enjoy it a decent amount. Surprised I haven't burned out on Villainess stuff, but that was my only One Piece release, One Piece books. Then we have two Square Enix books releases that I read this month, which were My Happy Marriage 4. This is getting an anime currently, I believe. I am really enjoying this. I recommend it to a lot of people whenever I read it, especially if you're a fan of shoujo series, or if you're just a fan of romance in general. There was a lot of relationship drama in this volume, which I think was handled decently well, because sometimes the relationship drama can come across a little forced. Then we have Daemons of the Shadow Realm, Volume 2 by Hiromu Arakawa, the author of Fullmetal Alchemist. I'm really enjoying this so far. It's releasing very slowly over here because we got it licensed over here pretty quickly into it being licensed in Japan. So I would definitely recommend this, especially if you like Fullmetal Alchemist. The only issue that I really have is just some mangaka... you can tell from a glance that they've drawn other series because the faces look very similar to faces in the other series. Like a lot of characters in this, in Fullmetal Alchemist, and in another series. I don't remember the name of it. It was like a 5-volume series that Arakawa did with somebody else doing the story. But the faces all kind of blend together. But this is kind of like Chainsaw Man-esque in a way because it has like these demons that are representative of different aspects and ideas in culture. I think it may have had some inspiration from the boom of Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen and that sort of thing, but done in Arakawa's own way. I'm talking way too long about this one. Then we have 3 Tokyo Pop books that I read, starting with one that came out a while ago that I just now got around to reading, which was at 30. I realized I had no gender. I really do enjoy these, trying to think of the right word to say here. In this case, the agender story of this person here and their partner, both of which have gone on their own journeys with gender. I really like how the main character is a much older person, and you get to see a completely different viewpoint than what people in the West are used to seeing. Alright, next up we have Sengoku Yoko, Volume 3 by Satoshi Mizukami, the author of Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer. Some trademark Mizukami-isms happen in this volume, which is really... I don't want to say anything about it, but I would definitely recommend trying this series. If you like Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, you're going to like this. It does have a lot of ideas and things that happen in it that feel like they were very similar to things that happen in Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, albeit with completely different characters in a completely different setting. Next we have If My Favorite Pop Idol Made It to the Budokan, I Would Die, Volume 2. Love this series. The main girl right here, obsessed with probably the least popular idol in the group, and it's kind of developing into like a sort of GL series, and it's super adorable and wholesome. And if you like K-pop or J-pop and standing culture, then you're probably going to like this type of series. But that's the last Tokyo Pop. Let me dive into Kodansha / Vertical. First of all, with the only book I have that's still vertical, which is the long-awaited Nichijou 11. Nichijou ended several years ago with Volume 10, but I think a year or two ago, the author decided to pick it back up and start re-serializing it, which means we now have Volume 11 of Nichijou. There isn't much of an ongoing plot in Nichijou. It's mostly just not really 4 coma, but just gag stories, gag chapters, really short, punchy jokes and that sort of thing. It's still really enjoyable. I still get a laugh out of reading it, and I do wonder if it continues on that we might get another Nichijou anime, but I don't know. I don't really know much about that. Alright, let's see. Let me do the two oversized Kodansha releases real quick. First of all, we have Shonen Note Volume 5. Absolutely fantastic series. Gorgeous art. I love the artist. Our Dreams at Dusk was a fantastic read. This is a great read as well. Only 8 or 9 volumes. It is a slice of life drama about a young boy discovering his love for the choir, his love for singing, his love for not opera, but a sort of theater. I don't remember exactly what it's called. I think it might just be called theater. Maybe it's opera. Regardless. I don't want to spoil too much about the story, but we get a lot more development for the other prodigy character we know in this series so far, and it's very good. Still love reading it. It's beautiful. Then we have Quality Assurance in Another World, Volume 3. This volume introduces a new character who is on the cover here. Very unique viewpoint for this character. I don't want to spoil too much about it. I am enjoying it a lot. The plot kind of shifted a lot in this volume, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but I'm still hoping I'm going to keep being able to enjoy it, regardless if the plot's different than what I thought it was going to be. Then we have 3 more Kodansha series. Let's start. That's not even Kodansha. I don't know how that got in that pile. We have 2 more Kodansha. First of all, we have Welcome Back Alice, Volume 5 by Shuzo Oshimi. This is a drama series about a boy that returns to school after being after transferring back into that school after a long period of absence, because he transferred to a different school and came back made up as, presenting as a girl, but still preferring to be referred to with male pronouns, and their sexuality and gender is questionable. I feel like they don't really understand themselves yet. This is very explicit look into the minds of some twisted high schoolers who have, I don't want to say twisted high schoolers, but there's a lot of raunchiness and meanness in this book, so if that's not something you're into, then I would skip this. I do really, really like it. I think the premise is interesting, and it's going to be ending in a few more volumes here, so I'm excited to see what ends up happening with the relationships. Then we have Go-Go Loser Ranger, Volume 6, aka Ranger Reject, by the author of Quintessential Quintuplets. I am still kind of middling on this series. We just finished up like a mini sort of arc, and now we are progressing into another major arc. And I'm going to give it some more time. I didn't like the last arc, I think is the big problem. The plot did not feel satisfying, the action wasn't well choreographed in my opinion, and things just got very confusing. Next up, I'm going to cover Yen Press. Let's start off with the standard size Yen Press volumes. I'm going to start speeding up a little bit here. We have the final volume of Sotus, a Thai-based BL series about a underclassman falling for his senior who is basically in charge of hazing him. And I wasn't a fan of how the series ended, if I'm being honest. It felt like it needed more room to breathe. It felt like this volume, their relationship just snapped into place and they started dating and all that sort of stuff. So I was kind of disappointed with that volume because I really liked the first 2. Then a twofer, we have Miruko-chan 8 and Miruko-chan, the official anthology. The anthology, I really liked some of the artists' stories. Really didn't like one of the artists' stories that was extremely heavy on fan service, which I know Miruko-chan has a good amount of fan service, but this felt very excessive. But one of these artists, I'm really interested in checking out more of their work. If it ever comes out to the West. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but I think they're actually getting a Starfruit Books book published over here. I can't remember for sure. And then Volume 8, we have more plot development on this new girl who's introduced to the school, who's completely different than anybody else who's been at the school so far. I'm really liking how we're learning more about her and getting some mystery built up around her. Well, that's Miruko on the cover, but I don't think the other girl's on the previous cover, but yes, Miruko-chan's still a great series to me. Then we have the debut of Maiden of the Needle. I really do like these needlework fantasy romance series. I really did love The Fiancé Chosen by the Ring, which also featured needlework and magic. A spoiler warning for the first volume, she does end up uh, being, I think, I'm not sure if it's engaged or living with him. So she's still like 15 or 16, so it's a little weird. I'm hoping it doesn't turn out to be a romance between the two just because of the massive age gap. Granted, she did reincarnate into this world, and she was, I think, over 18 in her previous world, so she's had enough life experience through her previous world and this world for it to not be as weird, but it's still a little iffy. Next up, we have Magical Girl Incident Volume 2. Really loving this series. Picked it up on a whim, and it's about a salaryman who's able to transform into a magical girl. At first, he doesn't know what triggers it, but he's basically tasked with helping perform magical girl duties and learns about the world of the magical girls in this volume, and also magical boys, because the magic applies to both, to either male or female, whatever else. But this premise relies on flipping gender. So if you present as a male, you'd present as a female, and that sort of thing. I have no idea what it would do with somebody who's non-binary, but that's not going to get covered in that. Then we have the Horizon Volume 2. I am really loving this series. It's really introspective, dark, not like hugely dark, mildly dark, but it's grim to read, and I really do enjoy it. It's also a fairly fast read, especially considering the size. It's going to end next volume. Not sure how, but we will see, I guess. Then we have The Essence of Being Amused Volume 2. I was okay on the first volume, and I'm really starting to like it from the second volume, and I have no idea how this is going to end at 3 volumes. I'm hoping it's not just going to be a rushed ending. It's basically this girl who is working as an office lady for a long time before she decides to really dive into her passion for art, because she failed applying into art college when she graduated high school, so she had to work in an office, and some things lead to another, and she decides to start pursuing art, leading to a fallout with her mother and a lot of terrible things happening to her. So it's basically her journey of finding herself. Then we have Doomsday with My Dog Volume 3. This is always fun. It's a full color, I think? Yeah, full color 4-coma with a hyper-intelligent dog and a young girl who can talk to any of the existing animals still. Not much to say about it. It's just a fun 4-coma. Then we have The Abandoned Empress Volume 6. Can't get much into the story for this right now. It's a lot of political intrigue. I still think it's one of my favorite manhwa. I am worried because it's ending in a couple volumes and people hate the ending apparently. So I hope I still end up liking the ending. Next we have my 7 Seas reads, starting with the final volume of Sorry for My Familiar. This was a great series about a young magical girl. Well, not magical girl, she's a demon. Who ends up making a familiar with a human who loves to observe demons. And then, their adventures as such. Just a lot of comedy, a lot of heartwarming moments. I think it's a fantastic manga that I wish more people checked out while it was still running. But then next we have J.K. Haru is a sex worker in another world. Story about a girl transported to another world where she has to work as a sex worker. We get a big plot twist in this volume, and we are going to end with the next volume, and I really, really did like the plot twist. It didn't explain a lot, but it led to some really interesting revelations. I don't want to spoil it. I think this is a great manga. It's only 7 volumes, so it's worth checking out. It's a nice feminist take on the isekai genre. Then we have volumes 6 to 7 of 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. This is a series about a boy who ends up being rejected 100 times and finds out once he gets into high school, he is going to basically have 100 soulmates that he's going to meet starting in high school. and he can't reject any of them. He has to accept all of them. This was due to a mistake, of course. Nobody's supposed to have 100 soulmates in this universe. So it's basically him he meets a new girl, and then they instantly fall in love. They're instantly bonded together, and then just building off the relationship dynamics. It's insanely stupid in the best type of way. It's a very parody series. I would definitely recommend it if you like or kind of don't like harems, because it turns the tropes on their heads, and a lot of the characters are just extremely goofy, and I think it's well written, but also a little fan servicey at times. Speaking of, we have 2.5 Dimensional Seduction 7. This one's very fan servicey, but in a way that I can kind of understand, because, you know, they're women cosplaying, and sometimes it's easier to draw attention when you're cosplaying if you cosplay characters that are a little more scantily clad. Of course, they cosplay the characters for more real reasons than that, but it's a manga. It's got to sell somehow. I think the story's great. We get to see this girl who loves cosplaying and this guy who's helping her achieve her dreams of being a successful cosplayer. It's a great series. I'd recommend to check it out as long as you're okay with fan service. Then we have Who May Be a Princess 2. This is becoming a great manhwa, in my opinion. A girl who is reincarnated into I think it's an anime game. I think either that or a novel, where she is reincarnated as this young girl who she knows is going to be killed by her father. And it's basically her trying to win her father's favor or escape. It's a typical villainess sort of series. It's a great manhwa with beautiful art, though. I would definitely recommend it to anybody who has a mild interest in the genre. Then we have Soloist in a Cage 2. This was a pretty interesting volume. I'm still not sure how I feel about the series yet. It's going to end with the next volume. I need to stop explaining the premises for all of these. It always takes way too much time. I don't have that many strong opinions on it, though. Then we have My Stepmother and Stepsisters Aren't Wicked, Volume 2. I enjoyed this. The first volume I wasn't as big on, but the second volume I kind of started getting a bit more comfortable with it. The premise felt a little one-note at first, with just turning, oh, I think you're angry at me. Oh, no, you're actually really happy and really kind to me. It's just, you seem like you're angry, or you seem like you're mean. There's a little intrigue built up in the first volume. I'm wondering if that intrigue's going to get expanded on much. Otherwise, I'm not really sure where the plot's going to go. It's still a cute, fun read. Then we have Killing Stalking 4, which is just a dumpster fire. I felt like it could have just ended this volume, if I'm being honest, but it continued on because things happened that unfortunately happened, and we are still going on this wild train ride. Ow. Then we have The Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation Volume 3. I am really enjoying this so far. It is a very interesting manhwa in the cultivation genre. I don't really know much about cultivation, so I can't say if it's a great representation of that subgenre, but I think it's a very interesting read so far, and the art's also very pretty. Of course, the cover art's usually the best for this, for the manhwa and the light novels for these, written by I'm going to butcher that name. I don't want to say that name. MZZS. I think I've seen it abbreviated as. I'm excited to see if any more of their manhwa gets licensed over here, because I know the light novels are, or the danme are, but I don't really read novels much. I prefer to read manga. Then we have the final volume of The Girl on the Other Side. I was kind of iffy with the ending. I had to talk to a friend to figure out what was going on with it and what happened exactly. I think it was still a great read and a great ride through the entire thing. The less you know about this one, the better. So next we are going to talk about The Eccentric Doctor of the Moonflower Kingdom Volume 3. This is kind of similar in a way to Apothecary Diaries, if you're familiar with that series. I am enjoying it a lot. The second volume had a lot of very intense surgery scenes. Or had a very intense surgery scene. This volume, I don't really remember too much about it. Unless this one's actually the one that, yes, this is the one with the intense surgery scene. It was really cool to see everybody's reaction to that and see how this procedure was done and how it was researched for the manga. I am enjoying it a lot so far. I'm excited to see more of it. Lastly, for 7Cs, we have Don't Call It Mystery, Volumes 3 to 4 by Yumi Tamura. This is a fantastic mystery series. It's a long read because it's very heavy with text. We do wrap up the cliffhanger from the previous volume and wrap up a mini arc here in this volume. It's basically this guy who is constantly finds his way drawn into mysteries and whodunits, even though he doesn't really want to be. He just kind of gets pulled into them without really meaning to. And he's fantastic at helping solve these mysteries. And I think that's it for 7Cs. So lastly, for my new releases reads, I have a giant viz pile. Starting with Old Fashioned Cupcake with Cappuccino. This is a sequel to Old Fashioned Cupcake, which I really did like. Not a huge fan of this one, though. The relationship drama felt a little bit unnatural, and that kind of throws me off a lot with these sorts of series. I still think they're a cute couple, and I do still like the art a lot. It's also longer than the first one, I think, which kind of made it drag a bit. Then we have Mashal 13. Mashal's got an anime that aired last season. We're getting introduced to the final arc in this volume. I know it's going to end in like 5 or 6 volumes, which is a little unfortunate. I do kind of prefer how things are when they're at the school and it's a bit more slow paced, but I understand needing to wrap it up and having this big epic fight they're setting up to. I think I am still enjoying it though. Then we have Mal Volume 13, which is probably the opposite of Mashal. I'm enjoying it more the longer the series goes on because we have more mystery developing on itself, and we have more of these characters introduced and learning things about everything happening in the world. I do still really love this series. Makes me excited to read more Takahashi's works because she has a lot of them. Then we have, that one was not one that I read, so ignore that. We have Help 5. It's got an anime still airing right now from the previous season of Summer. I enjoy this. The backstory for Helk is really interesting, and I am glad to hear more stuff expanded upon the world, whatever. The lore is very interesting. This is another case kind of like Mal where I didn't like it that much from the first couple of volumes, but I'm starting to like it more the longer it goes on. So that's starting to get better in my graces. Then we have Dark Gathering Volume 3. This is a shonen horror series. I don't really remember too much about what happens in this volume. Oh yeah, we did have pretty decent plot twist with this volume. But I'm not a huge fan of Dark Gathering. It's interesting, and I will definitely still continue to read it, but I'm not like extremely interested in it or extremely in love with it. Then we've got Chainsaw Man 12. Everybody know Chainsaw Man. Love the manga so far. I don't read it weekly. I read it when it comes out in the volume, so I was super excited to see Volume 12 finally coming out in the States. Loved this volume to pieces. Very excited to see what the heck's going to go on in Part 2. Then we have Blue Box Volume 6. Great romance series going on in Shonen Jump right now. We do have, I think... Oh yeah, we did have an interesting cliffhanger in this volume, but it's a romance series, so there's not really much to talk about with it. There's not a lot of like deep, intricate lore. It's more so just developing a relationship that I think is developing pretty well. Then we have the first volume of Blade of the Moon Princess by Spy Family creator Tatsuya Endo. I enjoyed this a decent amount. It's kind of a take on the Kaguya mythos from Japan. I think Endo's had a lot of good series that aren't Spy Family, at least the ones that I've read so far, so I'm interested to see how that goes. Then we've got Like a Butterfly 2 by Sue Morishita. I enjoy this a decent amount so far. Morishita's art's very pretty and very nice to look at. I don't really have much to say about the story because it's another high school romance, but I think it's a well-handled one. And it's only at 2 volumes, so we'll see how it goes. Then we have another another series about a non-binary creator, which is Until I Love Myself Too. This one also came out a while ago, but I forgot to read it. This is it's a sad, introspective look on this person's life and how things that happen affected them, but I think it's worth reading. It's a very meaningful work. It's just hard to read because it's a lot of difficult things happen in their life. Then we have Insomniacs After School 3. Yes, 3. This is an okay series. It seems to get a lot of love, but I think it's just okay in my opinion. The art's great. I don't know, it just doesn't seem like there's really a lot that goes on in this book or in this series. I'm still iffy on it. Kind of similar to Call of the Night, I think, where it's a lot of landscapes and like a slowly developing romance. And we've got Fist of the North Star 10. This wraps up the first part of Fist of the North Star. The series is set to be, I believe, 18 of these omnibus volumes. I didn't like this volume. I don't think they handled the way this story concluded well at all. They had a great plot twist in the previous volume and just ruined it with this one. I know it's controversial, but I do not like Fist of the North Star story. But we do have Dracula next by Shinichi Takamoto, I think. Shinichi Sakamoto. Fantastic art for this series. It is a series about... We don't really have too much about what it's about so far, aside from the fact that there's monsters that we assume are vampires and werewolves, and these children who are enrolled in this academy, and it's fantastic art, and I'm really interested to see where the story goes, but it's going to be very slow because I think it's only at 3 to 4 volumes in Japan. Lastly for Viz, we've got Alice in Borderland Volume 7. I am enjoying this more the longer I read it. It's stagnated a bit, and I am interested to see how it's going to end, because it does seem like things kind of got a bit rushed in this volume. But I think it's still it's a decent read, even though I don't like death game types of stories usually. Now we're going to talk about the stuff that I read that did not come out this month. First of all, we have Nurse Hitomi's Monster Infirmary, volumes 10 to 13. My opinion on this series really hasn't changed. At first I did like it a lot because it showed the struggles of students, and it showed a lot of deep thoughts and contemplative talking to the students and helping them work through their problems. It does feel like it's kind of just devolved into raunchy school and lots and lots of weird relationships happening. So I'm gonna still read it. I enjoyed the monster designs, but the fan service has gotten way too much in this series, and it feels like it's lost the plot. Then we have Otomen volumes 5 through 9. I just love this series so much. It's adorable. It's good shoujo drama, good storytelling, and it definitely has hateable villains. I can say that much without spoiling too much of what happens. I would 100% recommend this. Just be careful because it does have some outdated terms in there. I don't know if the terms are outdated. I think it's the ideology that's outdated in there because it came out a while ago. But I think it's still worth a read if you're okay with being able to deal with that. I think it's a great series in spite of that. Lastly, I finally got to start reading the Oh My Goddess manga with omnibuses 1 to 3. It's very heavy. These are 3-in-1s. I started picking this series up because Dark Horse announced they're going to be releasing Volume 7, and it got delayed to next year. But they finally reprinted Volumes 4 to 6, so I finally picked those up, so I decided to start reading this series. Fantastic love rom-com sort of series from I think the 80s or 90s. A lot of very well written characters, good drama, and the fan service isn't like excessively horny, let's say. I think it's handled decently maturely, and there's a lot of fun stories to follow in it. I would 100% recommend this series, but maybe just watch it because it's like 50-something volumes. Of course, these are 3-in-1, so it's going to be, I think, 18 or so volumes. But yeah, that's going to be it for me for this month for my reading log, and I will check back in with everybody next month for my haul. I need to stop calling it acquisition law because that just sounds wordy. So yeah, any feedback, anything in the comments, feel free to leave it, and I will try and respond as quickly as I can. I know I haven't responded to all of them yet. I say all of them, there's only a couple. But I will need to get around to that. So thanks again for your continued support, and I will talk to you guys next month. Ta-ta.